Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. My name's Neil.
And I'm Rohit.
And chances are if you're watching this video, that means you're probably interested in going through the consulting process. We had made some videos that describe one, like what our channel is, who we are, and the purpose of the videos that we're making. And a second one about what consultants even do, what's their day-to-day look like, and why companies would even hire consultants. And I'll probably tag them somewhere up there. But in this video, we want to talk to you about how to be smart prepping for consulting all the way from the beginning to the end.
We wanted to touch on three main things in the consulting prep process. The first thing is your resume. So what kind of things do you want in your resume generally, and also how to present it. The second thing is how to reach out to people at the firms. And the third thing is how to do the casing process. So if you don't know this yet, the casing process is how you do consulting interviews. It's just a style of interviewing for consulting. So we'll touch on the first thing first, the resume. On the resume, consulting firms are usually looking for three main things. The first thing is kind of more numbers oriented. It's kind of like your GPA, your standardized test scores. Just make sure try to have a high GPA and high standardized test scores.
Yeah, as much as you can.
As much as you can. Yeah. Hopefully you don't have a 1.5 GPA. I'm sure you guys don't. But yeah, just try to keep those numbers high. The second thing, you want to have relevant internship experiences or work experiences that you can talk about in your interviews that are related in some capacity to consulting. It doesn't have to be directly related, obviously, but just something that you can talk about where you've worked in a team and have had impact in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, like Rohit said, relevant is like super broad. For example, I never had any business experience. I was an engineering major and I did an engineering internship. But for me, the engineering internship was enough to know the things that I liked and didn't like, to know that what I had heard about consulting would be things I liked. For example, I really enjoyed the teamwork of engineering. I enjoyed problem solving. What I didn't like was working on super technical problems, and I actually didn't like that I wasn't working with the team as much as I thought I would. All of these things were kind of solved with consulting. So that was kind of the reason why my things, even though not specifically relevant, were relevant in my case.
The third thing that we wanted to point out too was leadership and passion. And so when you're presenting whatever things you've done, whatever cool experiences you've had in college, in your resume, be sure to point out the leadership activities that you've been involved in, and also the things that you've been passionate about and how you've kind of drove impact in those things that you're passionate about. And these things are kind of, broad, and we don't want to be like, these are necessarily three things you have to have in your resume. It's just generally encouraged, and usually what consulting firms look for in your resume. For an example, I wasn't too involved in school organizations, and I know that's one of the things I mentioned, but instead I decided to work for a startup and kind of learn a lot through that process instead of going through like leadership and student organizations. And I still ended up getting a consulting offer. So these aren't set rules. Definitely. They're just general guidelines.
Yeah, and like Rohit said, it's a give and take. If you don't have the greatest GPA, but you're showing stellar extracurriculars or stellar work in nonprofits, or you're just really passionate about something, that'll show through. At the end of the day, they want, of course, smart people, but they want people who are interested in things and also interesting people.
We'll also go over how to present things in your resume. There is kind of a process to how to present things for a consulting-specific resume. But we'll show that in a later video.
Yeah, we'll deep dive there. Next is reaching out to people in the firm. So a lot of people call this networking. I hate the term networking because that makes it seem like you're being really self-centered and selfish about it. But the way I liked looking at it whenever I was having to reach out to people within consulting was that I was just reaching out to people who could potentially be future mentors, future friends, people I'd play basketball or something with on the weekend or hang out, or people that I might even spend like 15 hours a day with while I was on their own case team. And so going from that perspective and just genuinely wanting to become their friend, although at first it was a little weird, became pretty natural. And once I started having good conversations with people that I had reached out to, having not known them before, it made it become a lot easier to reach out to subsequent people. Kind of like with the resumes, where we'll make another video on that. Reaching out to people within consulting firms is another thing that we'll make another video on. And of course, you'll want to probably reach out first to people who are alumni from your own school. Rohit and I, we went to, and I guess Rohit still goes to, a non-target school for the big three firms. And so especially during my time when I was a junior trying to get the internship, we didn't have many alumni in the big three consulting firms. And so because of that, I actually had to reach out to a lot of people, whereas now people in Rohit's year and younger won't have to do that because they have a lot of alumni like me and then Rohit and other people from our school who are now in these firms. So they'll have to do less reaching out to random people and just more reaching out and getting to know the people who are alumni from their schools. And then kind of the last thing that Rohit and I want to talk about in this video is casing. And of course, there is no way that we are going to cover all of the bases of casing in this video. Definitely don't want to make it an hour-long video. We'll definitely have a lot of example case videos where I'm casing Rohit and then we're giving feedback, or he cases me and then we give feedback. But right now we just kind of want to highlight the basics of casing.
So casing is basically boiling down a complex business problem into a simple interview question. Not simple, but an interview question for about 30 to 40 minutes that the interviewer will give you. So one example is the NBA is planning on entering the Chinese market to show the NBA games in China. How would they best approach that? So that's a very complex, broad problem, and that's the kind of problem that they will give you in a casing interview.
And that's largely because those are the kinds of problems that consulting firms actually face. And so what they're doing, like Rohit said, is simplifying it. Of course, it's still not a simple question to answer, but simpler compared to the full-size case. But they simplify it and then give you about 20 to 25 minutes to work with your interviewer to solve it. We definitely will not cover the entirety of all the things you need to know about casing in this video or in any one video. The purpose of our channel is to make a lot of videos so that you have the resources you need. But one thing that we can cover right now is a couple quick tips that we think would help a lot with the casing process in general, and also set you up for success in the future videos we make about casing. The first one is that in the description down below, we'll have links to different resources that you can use. I think what we'll do, we haven't made it quite yet while we're filming the video, but I think it'll probably be like a Google Drive or something with different other YouTube videos that are helpful, different case books, and just other books in general that you could read or like go through in your spare time. The second thing is, and something that really helped Rohit and I, was casing with other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I
for sure
don't think I ran any cases by myself, meaning like I don't think I really read a case by myself without reading it by myself to then go and do it with another person, meaning they would either read it, like give me the case and be the interviewer, or I'd be the interviewer giving it to someone else.
I actually ran a few cases by myself before I ran cases with other people, just because I was a little self-conscious on how I would do with other people.
Yeah.
But it is super different running it with yourself versus running with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge difference.
Yeah, but I think that like talking about the self-consciousness or about like being insecure, like the quicker that you can address that and overcome it, the better you'll be. Because I think everyone who starts out with casing like sucks really bad. Like you are going to be terrible when you start, and that's okay, because after 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 cases, depending on who you are, you'll start feeling more comfortable and start feeling really confident, and then get to the point where you're just crushing it. And then the last thing that we want to mention before we end this video is that not only running through cases will help you, but also reviewing past cases. Kind of like how athletes review tape on past games, both to see how the other team was playing and how they themselves are playing. I think it's helpful if you can review past cases, like the past notes that you took, and then even run a case that you've already run before, do it again, and then run it perfectly, and feel what it is like to run a case perfectly, both mechanically and then also how it feels from what you're saying and how the interview is reacting. And I think that'll help set you up for success in the future.
And the last thing I want to touch on real quick
go for it.
is in the casing process, you usually want to start running cases a few months before your actual consulting interview. At least for us, we both were applying for the intern position.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started casing in the summer between our sophomore and junior years, so that we would be ready to interview in the fall of our junior year. So the interview season's around like September, October, right?
Yeah.
So we'd be ready by then to kill the case, essentially.
Anyway, we'll make some more videos, help you all through this process. See you next video.
See you.